3.
Yummy like a gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for September 28th, 2023. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, the day that gaming died. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host to Game Mess Mornings. It's Jan Ochoa, everybody. Jan, how are you doing, buddy?
I forgot to buy a 40. I didn't bring flowers.
Yeah, I forgot to wear black, even though I told you to. Thank you for wearing black.
I was like, oh shit, I need something black.
I was too busy printing out I'm sorry, just finding my framed photo of Sir Jim Ryan. He's been knighted by now, I'm sure. So,
right. I mean, I know we didn't put the salute emote in the giant bomb chat for this reason specifically, but I'm glad that it can be repurposed.
Yes, this is the reason it's needed, though. This is why. Yes. More than ever. Absolutely.
This is when we're going to do a 21 gun salute.
Exactly.
In Mortal Kombat Special Forces.
Yes. 21 haptic trigger PlayStation DualSense controller salute. It's going to be beautiful, very moving and emotional. There's a lot happening today. Most of it actually is sad news. Not just faux sad, but real sad. We'll get to some of it here pretty soon. First, though, I want to thank everybody for joining us. You can get, I'm doing my other intro for my other show, Jan. Before we get into this, let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with PlayStation CEO Jim Ryan is stepping down. This is from Andy Robinson of VGC. Sony Interactive Entertainment CEO and President Jim Ryan is set to step down from his position, the company has confirmed. Sony Interactive Entertainment today has announced that SIE President and CEO Jim Ryan has made the decision to retire in March 2024 after almost 30 years with the PlayStation business. Sony said that in a statement on Wednesday. To support Mr. Ryan in his transition, Sony Group Corporation President, COO, and CFO, this is all the same person, Hiroki Totoki, will assume the role of chairman of SIE effective October 2023. Effective April 1st, 2024, Mr. Totoki will be appointed interim CEO of SIE while he continues his current role at Sony Group Corporation. Mr. Totoki will work closely with Sony Group Corporation Chairman and CEO Kenichiro Yoshida and the management team of SIE to help define the next chapter of PlayStation's future, including the succession of SIE CEO role. In his own statement, Jim Ryan cited difficulties juggling his home life in Europe and work responsibilities in North America. After 30 years, I have made the decision to retire from SIE in March 2024, he said. I've relished the opportunity to have a job I love in a very special company, working with great people and incredible partners, but I found it increasingly difficult to reconcile living in Europe and working in North America. I will leave having been privileged to work on products that have touched millions of lives across the world. PlayStation will always be a part of my life, and I feel more optimistic than ever about the future of Sony Interactive Entertainment. He goes on to thank Yoshida, all this stuff. But it's an end of an era over at Sony. I tell you what, I love having Jim Ryan in gaming, Jam, because he's the ultimate punching up a target, which is maybe why he's retiring, because we now start a punching down era, and he's like, man, I'm gonna miss those guys coming after me, because it's like he's super successful. He's made Sony a ton of money. His decisions, while sometimes I think in terms of like the PR communication might seem baffling, it's almost always led to them making more money and being more successful. So definitely the end of an era. But I guess how do you define his legacy? What do you think of when you think of Jim Ryan at PlayStation?
I think you said it. I think of a lot of baffling decisions that wind up working out anyway. So he is the ultimate puncher upper, falling down, falling up the stairs type of guy. His shins must really hurt from falling up so much. And I always think of Jim Ryan as just like a goofy dude, and not like a funny goofy dude,
Yeah.
but like goofy ass decisions where it's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
But with the PS5 PlayStation, it's the strongest it's been in how long, right? Like managed to eke out from like around the PS4 to now, just being like a industry leader. I mean, Sony PlayStation's one of like the big three, but like even more so, it's like eking out stronger than Xbox.
And stronger than like PlayStation 4 even, like which was the leader last generation. It's like even more growth this time around. So yeah, he's figured it out.
Is this because Phil signed that PS5?
Yeah, probably. That probably broke some sort of spell or something, and he had to get out of there. Jim Ryan is always okay. So it's weird. Jim Ryan took over PlayStation from Sean Layden. Sean Layden was and around that time, a lot of executives were leaving Sony. Not just executives, a lot of people up and down the chain. And you got the sense that like, while Sony had moved the headquarters of PlayStation, of Sony Interactive Entertainment, from Tokyo to Southern California, that was now kind of being shifted back over to Europe, where it's like, a lot of the people who are in charge of Sony are coming out of what was formerly Sony Computer Entertainment Europe, SCEE, which was Jim Ryan's stopping grounds. So you got the feeling like he sort of remade Sony Interactive Entertainment in that image, and was able to start calling the shots, and that's what kind of drove many of these people out, and even some people who were like had higher up jobs sort of got what seemed like demoted, and that includes that Kenichiro, who is someone who I think was once Jim Ryan's boss. He's like, no, now he works for him, under him, and like even he's not getting the interim role. Hiroki Totoki is. So it's like it was always this weird scramble at the early time of Jim Ryan taking over the top job, but Sony Computer Entertainment Europe was always the model of what they wanted Sony PlayStation to look like overall, because it was just so dominant. It was such a pop culture force. It was a marketing force. It had these strong ties to FIFA and all these games that had strong ties into Europe, and they wanted to take that globally. I think mostly they've succeeded. There's no way to say he didn't succeed at that. Like, there's just no evidence to point it to be like, no, that didn't work. For the most part, it did, right?
For the most part, in its entirety, it did. I mean, you have a framed photo of this gentleman for goofs, but you have a framed photo of this gentleman nonetheless.
That's right. Absolutely. Look at him holding that controller like a real alpha male. That's how you do it.
Some folks have said this in the chat. Dr. Ryan reminds me, but I'm wondering, with Jim Ryan leaving and him being a very business oriented and like growth mindset, do we see PlayStation as a whole getting weird all over again?
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, it's always possible. Like, where's the hubris come from? I get the sense that Jim Ryan had some of that hubris, but I think he was also pretty mindful about the past mistakes that Sony's made, and has done a pretty good job of either sidestepping with them or dealing with them quickly when they arise. And even like his gaffes, like saying like, oh yeah, who would want to play these old games that PlayStation made and people revere? Like, that stuff was always blown a little bit out of proportion, but it's the kind of thing where like, it's weird that you would say that. But he has like tried to deal with that, and he hasn't really made similar gaffes since then. He's said some other stuff that's pretty crazy, but it was of different variety and things that he could deal with quickly. I think Jim Ryan's legacy is going to be that he was someone who didn't have an apparent frontward-facing passion for games, and yet he shows that he seemed to have a passion for business and growing the numbers bigger, and that's really what that position's about. And in all measures, he's succeeded at that stuff. When it comes to like what's next for Sony, I do think it's a little bit questionable, because they are in a transitionary period. They are transition in like that, not that they're moving from one way of doing business to another, but they are trying to adopt new ways of doing business in addition to their quasi loss leading $200 million big budget projects. They want to have the live service stuff, and that stuff was all put into effect under Jim Ryan, but I think Jim Ryan was operating under a sort of mandate from the company, like, we need this, and we're going to see the results of that. And do they is the person that's going to come in going to have the wherewithal and going to have the context to know, like, yeah, that stuff is important. Having games that can just make money forever is important, but PlayStation the number one priority needs to be PlayStation games need to feel like the highest quality games out there, and they also need to have a friendly relationship with gamers. They don't have to be as hey buddy like Xbox is a lot of times, where Xbox is like, hey dude, man, we're just so on your side, I'm gonna slap you on the back and we're all in this together. That stuff is obviously Microsoft trying to build a relationship so it has that that network effect that it wants, that Phil Spencer was talking about in that leaked email. For PlayStation, it's just like, no, you have that brand strength, so as long as you kind of keep things on an even keel for the most part, you're gonna be good. But it's very easy, I think, if you are a big company that's had a lot of success for 30 years, to be like, we know better than anyone else, and maybe someone could step in it. But there's no reason to assume that will happen either. So I'm very curious to see what direction they go and if they're able to maintain the momentum that they've built up over the time. For Jim Ryan, he's been there, PlayStation in some form, since 1994. That is pretty impressive run. And kind of hard to say anything other than we love you, Jim. We love you so much.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah. Thanks,
yeah,
Jim.
it is not a position that I think could easily be filled in immediately and everything. It's going to take a lot of untangling, but I do hope that maybe there's a not different set of everyone salute, different set of ethos moving forward. But I would like to see a version of PlayStation that is acting less like a AAA blockbuster movie studio all the time, and kind of embrace smaller projects and weird offshoots as well. Like, I would like for them to have maybe a stronger indie initiative, smaller game initiative, than what they're currently just doing with, like you said, Lost leading massive games. Sometimes I just don't want to play them, Grubb.
Yeah,
and you know
same.
what? Hey, give me a PSP. Give me an actual PSP.
A real PSP, not the PlayStation Portal. So, I try to think of like what initiatives did Jim Ryan specifically lead. I think it was just to make PlayStation more PlayStation than ever before. And that, I think that is going to potentially have some long-term small detrimental effects. I think you spotted the ones most specifically that I would think about, and that is the ability to make a variety of tiers of games. Obviously, they make the biggest ones. Do they have any sort of incentive structure to make anything less than that? And these days, it seems like no. It seems like it's so aggressive that they don't even have much of an incentive to encourage smaller developers to bring their games to PlayStation. That's something we've heard developers complain about over the past couple of years. And Sony's made some improvements, but it's still nothing like putting games out on even the Xbox or the Switch, where it's much more friendly, which is why you see so many more indie games on the Switch. And you see a similar number of indie games on Xbox, even though they're going to sell less on Xbox than PlayStation because there's more PlayStations out there. But people seem to prioritize, indie developers seem to prioritize Xbox because it's much friendlier confines. I hope that Sony can build a business model going forward where they can see all of these different kinds of games and find a way to make it all fit under the PlayStation umbrella. Expand what PlayStation can mean once again. I hope that's what's happening, other than just the live service stuff, which is obvious and very important. I get it, but that's maybe one or two of those games will hit for me, and maybe one or two will hit overall and actually still be a going concern in 5 or 6 years or whatever. Yeah. When it comes to when I think about the people who have run PlayStation, as much as I have fun with Jim Ryan, it's definitely it was definitely not as warm or as memorable as Andrew House or Jack Tretton or Sean Layden or or Ken Kutaragi or all these guys that were just it seemed to have their veins were kind of tapped into what was happening. And I just remember Andrew House being on stage with Hideo Kojima, just grinning from ear to ear, speaking perfect Japanese to Kojima, and it was just like, man, he made this happen. He's proud of this, and there's no moments like that really that I think of when I think of Jim Ryan. But still, it's hard to argue with the results, right?
Yeah, despite there not being not any, but a good chunk of memories at E3s and then subsequently Summer Game Fest, the big impact is still felt from Jim Ryan's presence. But Yeah, Grubb, I just want them to get weird.
Yes.
Y'all got the money. Be weird.
Be
like,
weird.
Just pull an A24. Just make like a bunch of weird shit. Jim Ryan, what a weirdo. I just can't stop thinking about it. What a weirdo.
Yes.
What is he gonna do with all those ear pictures of us?
I don't know. Yeah, him and Mark Cerny got their ear picture bank probably 200 feet underground, protected for the rest of the time. Yeah. That's what he's going to do. I'm just going to go spend time with my family and look at my ear pictures. That's what I'm going to do.
He's somewhere in the countryside of Europe, just spinning a top, finally seeing his faceless children.
You know, that is the other thing about Jim Ryan is how much he's just like Europe #1. It's like I've never really met anyone like that. So it's like it's very strange to be like, I will never forget when he's like, we made Herman Hulst the head of PlayStation Worldwide Studios. So, and he's from Europe, so all Europeans can be proud about this. I'm like, can they? Does anyone care? Like, only you seem to care about this, Jim Ryan. The idea that like he's a European and I'm a European. That's great. It's like, okay, I think he took the Sony Computer Entertainment Europe job very seriously, and building up the importance of that as a important piece for a Japanese company. You know what? And I get that. If you're someone who's done that, you should be proud of that, because that takes a lot of work and a lot of time. But the idea that then transfers to Euro pride is weird to me. I don't know. All right, let's see here. I got couple more stories before let's see. Let's hit this next one. This one just broke. Actually, you know, before we say that, Jim Ryan got a tribute from Phil. Jim just said, Jim Ryan has been a great contributor to our industry and a fierce leader for PlayStation. I wish him the best in what he does next. Thank you for all you've done for the community over the last 30 years, Jim. So there you go. The competition, the spirit of competition is alive, but respect between leaders.
He said that after he signed the PS5 and started laughing, knowing that he had undid the spell.
Yes. You think they ever like have dinner together someday? I bet they do. Or they have
I am sure they do.
Yes, I bet.
Right?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they?
Who do you think fronts the bill, though?
Jim definitely makes Phil pay 100%, 1,000,000%. He makes Phil pay.
I can imagine Phil making the face after, like Jim doesn't do the check dance at all. Like Jim will just be like,
yeah, and
then Phil will be like, okay,
okay, all right. He's like, well, what do you need another $61 billion? Because no, you're gonna pay. All right, Epic is laying off 16% of its employees, which is around 900 people. This is breaking right now. Jason Schreier, right before the show started, tweeted, Epic Games, the makers of Fortnite and Unreal Engine, is laying off a whopping 16% of employees. Sources tell Bloomberg News. Epic, like everyone else, hired up during the pandemic. And now it's like they are on the other side of that, and there is still some economic uncertainty, although that a recession that everyone said was going to come hasn't really come. Consumers are still spending a lot of money. Still, Epic seems like, hey, maybe it's time to cut some cost. I'll say real quick, Epic is paying out that $245 million fine that it got assessed earlier this year for its dark patterns. Remember that? Yes, remember that story? Yes. Oh, they put the button there and made it very easy to buy stuff, made it more difficult to cancel stuff. And so Lena Khan went after his ass, Tim Sweeney, got him, and not to a quarter of $1 billion is what they're paying him fines, and they have to pay that out. So you can see that probably hurts the bottom line a little bit. Although it's a very successful company, it probably makes more than $1 billion. You know what? No matter what, $250 million is going to hurt you. I wonder if this is related to that. I bet it's probably more related to Fortnite's growth is almost certainly on the other side of the bell curve, right?
Yeah. I think you're right in that assessment that it feels like Fortnite for the longest time, or at least the last couple of years, was like an unstoppable juggernaut. But I think the other games in that similar space are also starting to slow down. You see it with Apex, PUBG, even other contemporaries like Roblox, even where now Fortnite has added the ability to make your own, like kind of make your own games or your own modes and add different skins to it. When really what is what more innovation can we do, or at least what can we ape from our competitors? Grubb, I see a world, unfortunately, and I hate that I'm putting this out into the universe. I see a world where Fortnite would start adding gotcha elements.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I think they might look into some other more accepted gray patterns instead of dark patterns, right? They'll be like, well, we couldn't get away with the dark patterns. What are things that work and have been sort of codified as, quote unquote, legal? How can we ethically monetize these teens? Jan, I think you're probably right that they are going to start looking at more of that kind of stuff. And in the meantime, they're cutting jobs. Tim Sweeney did eight months ago tweet Epic during a recession, and it's a picture of a bunch of shields and a bunch of dudes in military looking like they're protecting themselves against it. And it's like, first of all, there wasn't a recession back then, and there's definitely not one now. I get that there's still reason to batten down the hatches somewhat, but come on, like, why ever tweet something like we're invulnerable and then within the same calendar year prove that you're not?
Like, especially someone in his position, like, that is such a stupid thing, because then now you and I, other folks, are looking back at it and thinking like, you're a fucking idiot. Like, you are an idiot if you thought you could if you had tweeted this picture to show how invulnerable your company is, and a couple months later lay off 900 people. It's a bad look, because it's terrible.
Yep. It's just overall, I think Tim Sweeney's got a bit of a I don't know what kind of complex it is, but he definitely has some sort of thing where we're just, I don't know, he does feel like he's the hero a little bit, or always fighting up against, you see it going back to the fight against Apple, and we'll talk if there's some news there as well.
I was going to ask do you think the fight with Apple has any effect on their bottom line overall?
What? I think it probably does a little bit, but the real problem, the real trouble for them has to be the fight with Valve, because the amount of money that they've spent trying to build up the Epic Game Store, and I will toot my own horn here, even though it's kind of like, again, this is not like great news, but I was screaming at the beginning, this won't work. You're going to spend all of this money trying to give people free games to get them to shift their behaviors, and we know how difficult that is. Like, just like to illustrate it, people on Steam are so ingrained in that system that they are willing to like buy digital hats on the store. Like, they are like in their own digital economy of buying virtual goods, because they believe in the story that Valve has told them about the value of these things. And these hats are worth like a lot of money for something like Counter-Strike or whatever, or Dota and all this stuff. It like telling people like, okay, well, leave that thing that you've bought in on. You've bought in on the narrative of the value of these virtual goods in these games, and the way that having your digital library makes you feel. You're fully in on that stuff. We're going to give you one free game every couple of weeks, so come over to Epic. There was no way that was ever going to work. And yet, Epic has spent years doing that, spending lots and lots of money, and not really, and maybe spending some money to improve their store, not making a ton of changes there. And of course, it hasn't worked. It never was going to work. Everyone else has tried this. It never worked for them. Epic maybe made the most valiant effort, but it was never, ever going to happen. So I think they're probably looking at this kind of Tim Sweeney swinging his arms at windmills and going like, oh, okay, well, that was a lot of money down the drain. We kind of maybe need to rethink some stuff here. What can we do? Fire 900 people. That's okay. Maybe we could have saved that money and done something better with it instead of on a clearly futile effort to remove Steam's power base. I think that's their biggest issue right there. It's kind of Tim going into all that. Obviously, I think Apple's indicative of it, but I think Tim's sort of insistence on always going into all of these fights and taking people on by the horns and spending as much money as he needs. It's a waste, and clearly other people are now paying for those obvious mistakes.
Yeah, the hubris is very, very gigantic.
Yes,
with some of the business decisions. And to that effect, Grubb, like a lot of my friends that have only ever been console gamers, when they think about PC gaming, the number one thing that always pops up is like Steam. They never think about other game launchers, other game stores. Like the number one thing is like Steam. Yeah, like oh yeah, Steam. When I eventually buy a PC, I'll get Steam. Right? What's Steam? And then I have to do the complicated task of explaining to them what Steam is.
Now, at least Epic has a backbone like Bandcamp, and its marketing company super awesome. Oh wait, no, it doesn't. The news, the reporting is Epic is divesting of its previous acquisitions, Bandcamp, which it's selling to marketer SongTrader, and it's also spinning out its marketing company, super awesome, to operate independently. So this is like a pretty major restructuring that's happening over at Epic.
I forgot that they bought Bandcamp.
I forgot that. Well, I mean, we were always like, okay, so what's that going to look like? Well, nothing. It never looked like anything. Right, here we are.
Right. Like, oh my God. Like, they could have spun Bandcamp into like, hey, we have these games on our game store. Why don't you buy the soundtrack to them? Like, why not have a link on game pages to link over to like an album or a vinyl or whatever?
Something that, like,
the fuck?
Something that Steam has done for a very long time. It's like I always forget, like, I have a ton of soundtracks on Steam. That's weird.
Me too. It's like, wait a minute, I have this? Cool. How do I listen to these songs?
Yeah, let's see. You know what? This story is related, Jan, so I'm going to move it up. We'll talk about it right now. Epic is increasing the price of V-Bucks starting in October. This is from Tom Ivan at VGC. Epic Games has announced plans to increase the price of Fortnite V-Bucks and some real money content packs. The company said updated pricing will be introduced on October 27th in the Czech Republic, Denmark, Eurozone countries, Hungary, Japan, Norway, Poland, Romania, Sweden, Turkey, and the United States, as well as countries that use the US dollar in their Fortnite stores. These adjustments are based on economic factors such as inflation and currency fluctuations and follow similar pricing alignments recently completed in the United Kingdom, Canada, and Mexico, Epic said. V-Bucks, so here's just a quick breakdown. 1,000 V-Bucks previously was previously priced at $8, will now be $9. 2,800 V-Bucks was 20, now 23. 5,000 V-Bucks was 32, it's now 37. And 13,500 V-Bucks was $80, it will now be $90. Jan, I think this goes back to the very first point of Fortnite was growing this way, and now it's growing sideways. And you need to make more money from fewer people or about the same amount of people, right?
Right.
That's what's happening here?
Yeah. They already blew their load by throwing in Goku too early. Goku could, I'm positive, not to joke around, but I'm positive Goku could have saved everyone if they waited long enough.
Yeah, they were too early on the Goku button. Like, you need the Goku button. That was a bit too early. Let's see here. More. Oh, yeah. Patrick is sharing that image of Tim Sweeney making fun of other companies for laying off a bunch of people. Please.
I already have come to the conclusion, Grubb, that I don't understand money.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever will understand money. But when I see companies making moves like this, where they are raising the prices of something like V-Bucks, acquiring a bunch of companies that they will never use, and then eventually divesting them, and then eventually laying off 16% of their employees, I don't think they understand money.
Yeah, I always think about, like, I can't remember who this was. It just was a story I heard one time where it's like, guys, like, my investment strategy is if the numbers are going up and to the right, it means they're always going to go up and to the right. And if they're going down and to the right, they're always going to go down and to the right. So it's, and that's how I look at it. I'm like, wait, with that, we definitely know that's not true. But he's like, I'm a billionaire, so it's working for me. And I think that's what happens with these guys is they begin believing that their farts actually do smell like roses and that they can do no wrong. And that because they're making today, they're going to make money tomorrow. And so build all the stuff right now because all the money tomorrow is going to pay for it. And now here we are, and Epic's not alone on this. They are not some anomaly here. This happens to a lot of companies, but they are, this is happening over at EA with Apex Legends, right? We talked about that before. Its growth is on the other side of the bell curve as well, and here we are with Fortnite kind of doing the same thing. But you think Fortnite even bigger, even more lucrative, but it sort of doesn't matter because Epic spent even more money.
We need to somehow get into the vents of Epic's office so we can pop out and punch down.
Yeah, that's what we need. That's the key here. We got to get up so we can punch back down. I'm exactly 100% with you.
Exactly.
All right, Sega's shooter Hyenas has been canceled in Jesus, more just it's a bloodbath today out there, Jan. Other games canned as well as part of restructuring. This is from Eddie McCoo at GameSpot. Sega has announced a restructuring that includes the cancellation of Creative Assembly's shooters Hyenas and other projects within the wider Sega organization. Sega Sammy, the parent company, said this restructuring is mainly taking part within the company's European divisions. As a result of the effort, Sega plans to take a loss for the current fiscal year. In a statement, Sega said, the environment surrounding the consumer area has been rapidly changing, including reactionary decline from the stay-at-home demand in COVID-19 and the economic downturn due to inflation in European regions. And profitability has been lowered, mainly in European bases. In response to this, Sega said it is taking steps to implement structural reforms aimed at increasing efficiency, mainly in Europe. That's so. We said there's no recession, but obviously currency and inflation, these are causing problems where you're operating in a place like Europe and it has a much greater inflation than what's happening here. And so you're putting in the same amount of effort, spending the same amount of money, and the money you're getting back is worth less. And it's okay. That obviously is causing problems. And I think these companies are looking like, what can we do about that? And there is no real great answer other than let's be scared of what we're doing and pull away and cancel stuff. This apparently, I think what I saw was a developer working on Hyenas at Creative Assembly saying, man, your life can change in an instant. So it seems like this kind of came out of nowhere for that team. They were working towards releasing Hyenas, and now they're having the rug swept out from underneath them. And it's a bummer. I never had any excitement for Hyenas, Jan. I guess I felt like, hey, I could have told you no one was going to care about this, but I say that about a bunch of games that turn out to be the biggest games in the world. So I don't know what I'm talking about a lot of the time. But what do you think?
It's one of those instances as well where I would love to be wrong, right? Yes, I would love for Hyenas to blow up and be like the new hotness. I don't know. Whenever I see stories like this, and the last trend of stories actually. I just think about my manager from The Gap and how he seemed like he actually had the best business acumen, because he was like, yeah, man, the people we offer jobs to already shop here a lot, because if we give them money, they're just going to spend money back here.
Jesus.
So Sheila, I'm making up names now. Sheila used to come in here, buy sweaters all the time. And I was like, hey, you want to just work here? And now Sheila literally buys sweaters here all the time. She's buying more because of her employee discount. It's just one of those things of do people not fucking understand that, hey, just give your own base more money, and then that'll just, I don't want to talk about economics here and how I think just fucking pay people more instead of being fucking scared and giving into this fake recession that everyone has. All these big business people, Grubb, they've worked themselves into a shoot.
They have definitely worked themselves into a shoot. That's a big part of what's happened here over the past couple. I mean, it's like, who's really feeling the pain? Obviously, businesses might be paying more for their component parts. Not game developers.
Oh, no.
Yeah, because I'm not game developers. Definitely not happening. But it's like human beings trying to eat food are who's actually feeling the pain out there. And yet, consumers continue to spend money, at least in the United States. Again, it's different around the world. But in the United States, people are definitely feeling that pain, and they're also still spending a lot of money on a bunch of other consumer goods. And it's driving the economy. Things are, the fundamentals still look surprisingly strong based on that spending. And these companies are like, we don't believe it. We're freaking out. We are freaking out over here, man. And now everyone has to continue kind of paying the price.
I just feel so terrible, Grubb, because, we, due to the nature of the show and the website, we have to cover upsetting stories like this.
Yes.
Right. And it's all, and I do, I think there's a positive side where we raise awareness to these types of business practices and how terrible they are, but I just can't help but feel terrible for the folks that are constantly being affected, and folks that are losing their jobs. Like you mentioned, that one Hyenas developer getting the rug swept from underneath them. People will move across the country to different countries for some of these game development jobs, only to be laid off. And then there are just so many layoffs in this industry that the talent pool is swarmed and flooded with people looking and scraping to get additional jobs. And it's cool when a big auteur will spin off and make their own studio, but sometimes those studios, those projects don't don't wind up making anything. That like those game devs that joined or like took a chance to jump ship or take that opportunity don't have a lot to show on their resume. And like,
Yep.
I hate it. I hate it.
Yes, it's much rougher out there for real people than it is for these companies. And these companies continue to make big investments that, they're big moves, big plays, and the hit rate. I mean, going back to that email from Phil Spencer, where it's like the hit rate for all these companies is not that much higher than anyone else's hit rate. And everyone is making games these days. So it's like you're going to be in this situation where if you're Epic, you could be like, we have the golden touch. We made Fortnite. So everything we do is going to be a payoff, big investment. It's like, not necessarily. Let's see what happens. Like you're doing the Fortnite creator thing, right? You're making the next Roblox. Of course it's going to succeed, right? Of course it's going to make all this money. Well, here's more details from Jason Schreier. For a while now, we've been spending way more money than we earn. The Fortnite creator profit margins are not as big as Fortnite's profit margins were. So it's the big new initiative. Fortnite going to be the next Roblox. The reality, Fortnite is not the new Roblox. It is just another thing that people saw as a curiosity. They're not spending more money in Fortnite because they're doing all these other things. It turns out that maybe people weren't coming to Fortnite to have all these other experiences. They were coming to Fortnite to play Fortnite. And getting them to change their behavior, once again, a very difficult thing to pull off. So 870 jobs eliminated. Epic is still hiring. They don't plan any more layoffs.
That second to last bullet point is incredibly frustrating.
Yeah.
Of you lay off 870 people. You eliminate jobs, you were still hiring.
Yes.
Like that is the most insulting thing. And like I 100% felt like the Fortnite creator initiative could have been something, if positioned properly, could and should have blown up. Like some of the examples that like I was seeing come out of that looked great. Turned the game, made it look like something completely different. I think it was just positioned and marketed very, very poorly. Like it is so difficult to even figure out how to download those levels, or like, okay, do I get a seed? Do I follow a creator? What do I do here to even pursue that? Or like, I don't know. You've already used and exploited a bunch of streamers to make them play Fortnite all the time. Make them make a level or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Monetize the teens.
Monetize these teens. Before we take a quick break, I just like we talked about Hyenas. I never really explained what it is. In my mind, everybody knows how about Hyenas because at the time me and Mike heard the sound effect when they were teasing it, and we're like,
Echo
that's
the dolphin,
definitely
right?
Echo the Dolphin. And I slowed it down so it would sound like it was underwater. And hey, Jan, worked myself into a shoot just a little bit.
I remember walking the dog when you did this, and then I think Lucy was the guest that day, and she was very skeptical.
Well, it turns out they were making Hyenas, not an Echo the Dolphin, and now they're not even making Hyenas. Maybe they should have made Echo the Dolphin all along. All right.
Hey, Grubb.
Yeah,
what
please.
if, to save money for these companies, what if they lay off the people at the top?
What if they did a little Satoru Iwata and took a pay cut, huh?
Yeah.
Maybe
yeah.
but why is
Man,
that the only time I've ever been able to use that as an example? Why is that the only time in history that's fucking ever happened is one person? And
What
it's
a
Iwata,
guy.
that good, sweet boy who I miss very much.
What a good man. Damn.
Just watches a GDC speech like once every 6 months. It's a good guy.
The Dusty Roads.
Yes, 1,000,000%. They put hard times on my boy Satoru Iwata. All right, everybody.
It worked. You're right, Chet. It fucking worked.
It absolutely worked. All right. We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to talk about a completed edition of a game coming from Sony. Netflix have got a bunch of animated shows. We'll get to all of that and more right after this. We're back. We're back, and we are talking about Horizon Forbidden West Complete Edition is going to be released next week. This is from Alberto Garrido at Game Reactor. Neither Sony nor Guerrilla have confirmed anything about a rumored full edition of Horizon Forbidden West. I think it's actually changed. They have now actually confirmed this, although there's been a number of rumors and hints in recent months pointing in that direction. The complete edition of Horizon Zero Dawn was a huge success and one of the biggest first-party titles for the company in recent years. So it should come as no surprise that the full version of its sequel will arrive in plenty of time to appear on gift lists for this Christmas campaign. and it's coming quite soon, in fact, because Gamatsu has spotted a Japanese retailer's listing for Horizon Forbidden West Complete Edition with a release date of October 6th. Again, this stuff has all been confirmed after I put this stuff in the story here. The Complete Edition is going to have, Horizon Forbidden West for PS5, Burning Shores DLC, a digital soundtrack, digital art book, and Horizon Zero Dawn Volume 1, the Sunhawk digital comic book. And then there's a bunch of in-game items. This, not too surprising. They're all in on Horizon Forbidden West, Horizon Zero Dawn, all that stuff. This is probably going to give this game another a second or third win or whatever at this point, right?
Yeah, I don't want to punch down at this game, but like this game very much not for me.
Yep.
I've tried it. I've played a lot of it. I just can't get into it. But I'm happy that this apparently has a massive audience. These Horizon freaks are out there.
They're out there, and they've been bundling PlayStation 5s with Horizon of one form or another for a very long time now. They'll probably start doing it with this complete edition after this holiday, I assume. Maybe not. I have no idea. I think the bundle this holiday is a sports game or something, FIFA, I think. Well, maybe there's multiple bundles. But that's been driving the sales of these of Horizon, and I think it's like for them, it's part of a long-term investment strategy of Horizon's going to be up there with God of War, and we're going to have movies and TV shows and all these other things, although that, again, I've been hearing problems about the TV show, and again, I'm bad at Hollywood stuff, so I don't know if that's true or not. But you know that they want to make those investments and they want to have those synergies, and this is all part of that plan.
Yeah, I think not that it's a hard pill for me to swallow, but I think it's an interesting adjustment to make in my head at least that Horizon has become one of their tentpole series, right? Like where Horizon has taken more focus than some of the franchises that I enjoy more, like a Ratchet and Clank, perhaps even a Jak and Daxter. And that we'll probably never see Killzone again, huh?
Yep. I probably not. Yeah.
But it's so interesting to think that there are groups of younger gamers that have grown up with Horizon being one of their, like, this game looks great, it plays great, I like these dinosaur machine animals, and I fuck with them.
Yes, exactly. I think the game is kind of too big to fail. Not that it was ever at risk of failing. What I mean by that is just that it's been such a big investment on the getting it up and set up and making these games side of things. And while yes, it's sold pretty well and it's definitely been a pack in, and that's helped its overall like raw sales numbers. I think in terms of making a profit on the development, it's still like okay, but not great. But I think they think long term it will be great because every new game will be a little bit easier, cost a little bit less money to make, and the sales could get bigger and bigger as they introduce more and more of an audience to it. And I think that's proven right so far.
This is their Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
It definitely seems that way, which is a bit strange, but I mean, it's working for them. So I'm like, I don't want to be like, you can't do that.
You know, and I think everyone in games media kind of laughed off the original Horizon because, if I recall correctly, didn't it release around the same time as Breath of the Wild?
Yes. The original Horizon was Breath of the Wild. The newest one was Elden Ring.
Jesus. But you know, there are some folks that didn't have access to play Breath of the Wild, and or in Elden Ring's case, didn't want to get into a FromSoft game. So Horizon just struck that balance for them, and I'm sure that's why Horizon has been able to find success for so long.
Okay, so just a quick more from Epic. Let's get back to that real quick. Epic has put out a statement. I have taken this long statement from Tim Sweeney, and I used AI to summarize it, and I'm going to read that instead of this whole long thing. Epic Games is laying off 16% of its employees, divesting Bandcamp, and spinning off most of Super Awesome. The layoffs are due to a combination of factors, including the company's investment in the metaverse and success of its creator ecosystem. Epic Games is providing severance packages and other benefits to affected employees. The company is confident that it can continue to focus on its ambitious plans despite the layoffs. Tim Sweeney was one of those big metaverse guys. Metaverse, for people who were unaware, a couple years, if you weren't paying attention, God bless you. I really am jealous of you. But for a couple years there, before AI did come along, it was the buzzwords were all metaverse and NFTs. And we know now, listen, most of us knew back then both those things were a joke and were never going to work. But Tim Sweeney was like the one, like, maybe Epic could make it work because Epic has Unreal and everything running on Unreal in this connected metaverse. I guess that could work. There maybe would be some compatibility between games at that point, and you could buy a sword in one game and take it to some other game. But even then, it's like, no, these companies are just not going to work together that way. But maybe it could happen within Fortnite. Tim Sweeney, Epic definitely believed in that. They made those investments like we talked about, and the creative program in the metaverse obviously not paying off. And that was a lot of money to spend, a lot of money for them to spend on that stuff to not really make much back, it seems like.
What a goober.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just these big initiatives, these big bets that I think if he had like steely-eyed realists around him, right? People who
Steely Dan right next to him.
If he had Steely Dan listen, if he had Steely Dan next to them, he would be getting made fun of constantly. Those guys would not lay off him. Thank you, kiddo. You could just turn down the volume a little bit. Thank you, friend. But yeah, you're like, okay, well, what other options do they have? I don't know. I feel like there was probably some other options to make other games, or but you know what? Their good initiatives are probably, hey, let's publish some Remedy games. They're doing that. I think that's a good idea. Do more of that stuff. Be more of a publisher, a traditional publisher. I bet you could turn that into something pretty big, especially if you're going to work with studios that have known and proven track records like Remedy.
If you're a CEO, do not post memes. What about that?
That's definitely, God, that's really good advice, Jan. I think Tim Sweeney would do well to listen to that. If anyone wants to do me a favor, can you guys get me the clip of Tim Sweeney climbing the tree outside of Epic's offices from like the early 2000s and just tag me in chat with that? That'd be super helpful. All right, let's see here. Netflix is expanding its animation lineup with Tomb Raider, Devil May Cry, and more.
Oh,
did you see any of these, Jan? They look pretty good.
I did not. I didn't know they were doing a Tomb Raider.
Tomb Raider. Let's see, The Legend of Lara Croft. It looks pretty good. Lara Croft. Lara. I don't. Is it Lara or Lara? What do you think?
Okay, hold on. I got to imagine Tam and Lucy first.
Yeah. Okay, go for it.
Lara Croft.
that sounded like Laura, which we definitely know it's not.
I know, and I can feel them seething right now.
They're mad at you. They're so mad at you. All right, hang on. Let me see here. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. We'll just play this in the background while we continue the news. There's just Tim Sweeney climbing a tree. Oh, Tim. Oh, sweet boy. All right. Yeah, I think I like these Netflix shows in theory most of the time. I'm not seeking them out too much. I watched a little bit of Castlevania. I liked it. But video games continue to be pretty fertile ground for these companies that are looking for content, right?
Turns out, I'm watching the trailer for this Tomb Raider. I didn't want to say Lara again. This looks great. This looks good.
I think it looks pretty good. Yeah, actually, let's see. I think I have it somewhere here. Some people can actually see the stuff that we're talking about. I think that I will of these. Because they have, it's Devil May Cry is coming 2024. Lara Croft is coming in 2024. Captain Laserhawk, a Blood Dragon remix, which is based on that. Yeah, they talked about that before with Adi Shankar. That's coming October 19th. And then Scott Pilgrim Takes Off is coming November 17th. And that has the entire cast, right? What's your opinion on Scott Pilgrim?
Oh, Grubb, it's gonna be bad for me.
Oh,
it's gonna be bad.
Oh, it's gonna be bad. Okay.
Well, I love Scott Pilgrim.
Okay, I'm excited to hear that for you.
I love Scott Pilgrim. I fully acknowledge, though, that Scott Pilgrim dating a 17-year-old is incredibly problematic.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we have to say that.
And that part is stupid.
Yeah, not a good thing.
But, man. Yeah.
I love Scott Pilgrim. Edgar Wright is, up there for me. Yeah, but I know that they do portray him as a shithead because he is a shithead. He's not a good guy.
He's a dipshit, but making your protagonist a dipshit doesn't mean it's not a protagonist. That was always the thing with like Breaking Bad, where they're like, oh, he's the villain, and they're making Skylar out to be the hero. It's like, no, that's not what they're doing. She's coded as the villain, and that you just don't understand media. It's like, yeah, if Scott Pilgrim's still like the hero of the story, you kind of have to keep that stuff in context a little bit.
And folks, I fully realize and know that they're clowning on Scott the whole time.
Sure.
There are just some portions of the audience there that did not recognize that part of the story.
Absolutely. All right, let's hit these other stories relatively quickly. Cyberpunk 2077 sequel is now the focus after 2.0 update and Phantom Liberty's launch. This is from Evan Campbell at GameSpot. Basically, Jan, this is the big DLC pack for Cyberpunk 2077. They're not going to do another DLC pack. They're going to go start working on Cyberpunk 2077 2, which seems completely fair. Have you started playing that yet?
Oh yeah.
How are you feeling about it?
I'm kind of glad that I waited this long.
Sure.
But I don't enjoy that there's still more and more games coming out, because I could easily see myself just losing days in the world of Cyberpunk. When Dan had said on the Bombcast, I think, where he doesn't really fast travel around, he just walks or drives around. I kind of took that approach, and it's just like, wow, this is a living, breathing world. I wish Starfield was like this.
Yeah, that's the biggest disappointment about Starfield, is that you just kind of can't get lost wandering around like you can in Skyrim, and definitely in Cyberpunk. I think that I'm definitely more excited about a Cyberpunk sequel than I am even for playing Phantom Liberty. But I think something I'm enjoying, but it's like they definitely had ambitions beyond what they've even accomplished here with this, fixed version of the game. And I want them to kind of get back to that and make that happen. Did you see the trailer with Idris Elba, where he's like talking to the camera, and the last line is, and he's like, it's in context. He's like, oh, the it's unfair, but he says the game is fixed. Like, that's the line. And it's like, oh my God, I can't believe they fucking said that in this trailer. That's incredible.
People just let Idris Elba do whatever, but maybe they shouldn't.
Yeah. He seems like he needs to be reined in a little bit. Yes, he's too powerful, and he's taking the reins himself, and it's getting out there. All right, Epic files U.S. Supreme Court appeal in Apple antitrust case. This is from Jordan Fragan over at GamesBeat. Epic has filed a writ of, I don't know this Latin, certiorari, asking for the U.S. Supreme Court to review a lower court's ruling on its antitrust case against Apple. The petition is asking, I just thought about the Roman Empire, because that's where that comes from. The petition is asking the Supreme Court to rule on the broader antitrust questions as governed by the Sherman Act. Epic argues that restraints on business that have both pro and anti-competitive effects is unlawful if a less restrictive alternative will achieve the same benefits while harming competition less. The Fortnite publisher and Unreal Engine maker is asking the court to determine if a less restrictive alternative must be free from the cost to Apple, and two, if a less restrictive alternative doesn't exist, if the restraint is invalid, if the harm to competition substantially outweighs the restraint's pro-competitive justification. It's basically Epic's continuing to be pretty unhappy with its relationship with getting games onto iPhones and iOS without having to go through the Apple App Store. And they're trying to continue push against that. And yeah, we'll see if they make any headway there. Let's see. Finally, F-Zero 9. Oh, go ahead, please.
Some CEOs remind me, and their business acumen reminds me of, the stories of folks that win the lottery and immediately go bankrupt in a couple of years because they don't know what the fuck to do with the money.
It definitely has those vibes.
I just wanted to get that out of my
definitely
brain.
Getting that energy from everything happening over there 100%. F-Zero 99 is adding 5 tracks on Friday. Maybe we'll do another. We'll do an F-Zero 3 hero and make that happen.
A Tokyo Drift.
Yes, exactly. Oh man, I'm very excited. Let's see if they have some. Okay. Mute City 2, Port Town 1, Whiteland 2, and Deathwind 2 are all being added. So, and Red Canyon 1. So that's pretty cool. And that's from the Queen League, from F-Zero, the original F-Zero. Okay, that's very exciting. Finally, Brazilian. This is an update. Brazilian rating board made a mistake. Red Dead Redemption 2 isn't Switch bound. This is from My Nintendo News, and this is what we said, right? We're like, what's the simplest thing here? Someone just clicked the wrong thing on a CMS that had Switch for Red Dead Redemption 2, and it was a mistake. Turns out it was a mistake. It was never meant to happen. They've updated the site. I think it no longer mentions it for coming to Switch, which kind of fucking duh, right? There was no way that was ever going to happen.
I was morbidly curious, though.
Me too.
I was like, maybe this is how I finally Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah, I played a lot of that game. But I'm really going to play it if it ever comes to the Switch. And only the original Switch. I don't want none of this next-gen Switch nonsense. Give it to me on that real crucial Switch hardware.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. I got a poll from yesterday. I'm just going to get this framed up. Props. There we go. What comes out first? No, that's let's see if I can update this because this is from yesterday and it just doesn't have enough votes yet. There we go. Are you playing Payday 3 or are you waiting until it gets some more updates? 77% say I have no interest in Payday 3. Of those that do, though, 16% say no, that they aren't going to wait for more updates, or that they aren't playing, excuse me, and 7% says yes, they are going to wait for more updates, or that they are playing, excuse me, I messed that up. 7% say they are playing, 16% say they aren't playing. That's, so about twice as many aren't playing that are at least interested in the game. And that makes sense because it seems like it's a real mess right now trying to get in there. Even if you're a Payday fan, I guess it makes sense because if you're a Payday fan, you're probably still playing Payday 2 and having a fine time with that. 240 updates for that game, you might as well just stick with that for a while and then shift over to Payday 3 slowly after the studio gets in a good position.
Get a little freaky. Play Crime Boss Rockay City.
Play a little Crime Boss Rockay City.
No,
see what Kim Basinger do.
Don't do that.
See what Michael Madsen do. We were going to play this on Friday, Payday 3. Jam,
Yes.
probably not going to be able to play it. It seems like the servers are very unreliable, huh?
Yeah. Maybe we should play a new game that just came out.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that instead. That sounds good.
Counter-Strike 2.
Counter-Strike 2, the newest of video games. Party Animals 2. That's what we're really looking for. We got a new poll question. We'll get to that in a second. In the meantime, though, Jan, what do we have happening on the website? Where can people find all you and all that goodness?
Yesterday on the website, we had the debut of another new season of Blight Club. Major Mitch, everyone, salute your major. Where Mike is, and salute Jim Ryan as well. Mike started to play his Blight Club game, which is Mortal Kombat Special Forces. A lot of fun in the beginning of that video. A lot of goofs. Shouts out to Mitch, honestly, for being such a good sport.
Good sport,
and
yes, absolutely.
Rolling with the punches.
And getting through that game, doing a good job with it. He was born to be a Special Forces operator, I think.
Some would say, what a trooper.
What a trooper. Real soldier.
Later today, I believe we're going to record a couple quick looks in the back. And then we will have Voicemail Dump Truck popping off later today. Another episode of Game Mess Mornings to end the week, as well as UPF. What we're playing, still up in the air. Maybe we'll do Counter-Strike too. Huh?
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. It's going to be kind of a game time decision a little bit, but that'd be good.
Also, this got tweeted out, but now if you call the voicemail dump truck 707 exit flu, it goes straight to voicemail. No
really?
need to wait for a couple of rings. Thankfully, that's a setting you can put in Google Voice.
Yeah.
And also, turns out Google Voice had enabled routing over to my phone number.
Oh,
so
really?
That explains why I was getting so many random calls from numbers I didn't know.
Oh, incredible! I have that set up for my work number. Which I had on Google, which I got on Google Voice forever ago, which has my name in it. So if you ever want to prank call me, just try every possible variation of Jeff Grubb in a phone number with a different area code. But yeah, that's I can imagine if you had that, you probably were getting a lot of calls, Jan. A lot of people call that number.
Yeah. I was very confused, and I was like, "What service did I sign up for? Where did I put my number that now I'm getting inundated with phone calls?" Thankfully turned that off. And also on the Giant Bomb YouTube right now, I think look at this.
It's someone said Bezos phone check. Yeah, I got my Amazon phone. I'll see if I can get it charged up and check on it in a second and see if it still works.
On the Giant Bomb YouTube channel, I think we have my greatest work ever, which is an hour of silence, occasionally interrupted by the Mortal Kombat yell.
I'm very excited about that. I have that tab open all the time now. It's very good. Definitely your best work, Jan. Thank you so much for that.
Also, I'm crossing my fingies that the train travelogue will finally go up tomorrow, parsing through a lot of footage and then trying to recover footage from my camera to no avail. But we got some good stuff. Got some vibes.
Stuff happening. Vibes are happening. Look out for all that. All right, let's see here. The poll question for Friday, for Dregs Day with Tam. We're going to talk about this. Grade Jim Ryan's run as the head of PlayStation. You can vote A, B, C, D, or F. Very curious to see what people come at this. If you have like some thoughts about it too, put it in the comments. Maybe we'll read some of those. Write a love letter to Jim Ryan. I'll read that. Maybe I won't read it on air, but I'll read it and keep it in my heart as always. Cocoon reviews are up. We'll probably do something with Cocoon. Everybody, look out for that. That'll happen. Okay, let's see. Jan, thank you so much for talking with me today about the tragic loss of Jim Ryan.
We'll never forget. We'll never forget, Jim.
I'm
going to go buy a 40 after this.
Bye-bye, Mr. PlayStation Guy. And thank you all for watching. You're the best audience in gaming. You're going to make it possible for me to get through this very tough day. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.
Mwah.
Mwah, mwah, mwah.